This is Brianna and this is Whiteoak Goodies. Every year, my friends and I get together for a thing that we call Tinsel Crab. It is our rendition of Christmas, and this year I'm in charge of doing the cake. Yay! Luckily, I'm really good at doing cakes. So, to combat the dreary, gloomy winter that we have going on right now, I decided to do a bright, vibrant rainbow, sherbety rainbow drip cake, which that's going to include, I'm going to decorate the sides of the cake in rainbow color, and then I'm going to pour a white chocolate ganache over the sides and do that nice little fun drip thing that we've been very popular with right now. So as you can tell, I've already base iced my cake. It's a nice little 8-inch cake, nice base iced white frosting. And I went ahead and I made up a whole bunch of colors. I've got this nice vibrant pink color that is super bright and sherbety and just loving it. Normally I do like to have couplers on my frosting bags, except for since we're just decorating the sides of the cake and not really doing any intricate stuff on top, all I did was I just filled up the bag and I just cut off the edge. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place that frosting bag and lightly squeeze and form basically like a ring around that top. And I'm actually going to make that a little bit thicker, and I'm going to do a double ring and slide it around. And what we're going to be doing with this is once we get all of our colors on, we're going to go ahead and take our bench knife and we're going to scrape everything together and just kind of blend everything together. A nice good way to kind of get that nice blending is you just kind of like leave just a small gap, not like a big one, but just like a little one, and add in your next color. And doing it this way, you get the nice like clean straight lines. To get kind of a more blended, blurred effect, you can kind of do squiggles, and it kind of does more of like a tie-dye effect instead of doing the straight lines. But for this cake, I wanted to have the nice clean straight edge lines, kind of have more of a solid rainbow going on the sides. And I'm just going to kind of continue down the rainbow, the Roy G. Biv, or in this case I did pink instead of yellow or red. I like to do pink sometimes instead of red, just to kind of be a bit more pastel-y instead of the harsh, vibrant solids. I like working with pastels a lot more. I feel like they're brighter, more vibrant. And again, I hate the winter, I hate the cold. I'm not a big fan of the dreary, gloomy, gray. Don't get me wrong, during the first part of winter, I love doing like the blues and the purples and the bright wintry colors, but by January I'm over it. I'm done. And I like to go back to the bright spring colors and warm and sunny and bright. As you can tell, I got like a little bit of a tail there. It's no big deal. As I said, we're just going to kind of keep blending colors. So it doesn't even have to be perfect. Just keep on blending. Blending. Oops, I didn't even finish that second ring. I only got about halfway. Or not even really halfway, but... Alright, go on to the blue. My husband and I had a discussion the other day while I was making these colors on whether or not the blue and the purple were pastel. I still feel like these are really like sherbety than pastel. I like my pastels to be really pale and soft and kind of baby room-esque, and he was like, no, those colors are very pastel. I'm like, I don't think so, babe. I'm thinking these are a bit more sherbety. And since purple is my last color, I'm just going to kind of squeeze it a little bit harder and give a little bit thicker line. Maybe bring it up a little bit closer to that blue. Yeah. So then, as I said, we're going to take our bent edge spatula, not our bent edge spatula, our bench scraper, and all we're going to do is we're going to gently press this into the cake, and we're just going to smear the colors together. And that gives you a nice straight sides, nice and smooth, and you're going to have the ribbony or butter extra frosting that you're going to have, and you can just kind of scrape that off. I forgot to grab a bowl, so I'm just going to scrape it onto my table. Not that you can see that, but whatever. But as you can tell, you kind of still have some of those gaps. And again, all you need to do again is just press it in and gently press. And keep spinning. And you get the nice smooth sides, that nice bright rainbow color. I'm just loving it so much. And then if you need to scrape your spatula again, always try to make sure that your colors match up on your table or on your bowl, so that way you don't muddy up the colors again on here. Because if you muddy up your colors on your bench knife, you're going to muddy up your colors on your cake. And I'm just going to kind of go ahead and kind of scrape some of the sides clean. Give it a nice flat edge. I know that's not a great sound hearing the metal scraping against metal, but you kind of get used to it. Alright, and then I'm just going to kind of smooth out the top a little bit. I'm actually not going to decorate the top just because I'm going to have that ganache dripping on the top, but I am going to kind of smooth out those edges to kind of give nice, clean, crisp sides, whatever, you get the idea. And as you can see, I kind of like pushed all the stuff in the middle, and then all you just need to do is just smooth it out flat. Ta-da! Loving this rainbow color. Just so much fun. Alright, so I'm going to show you a couple of different techniques on how to do the ganache dripping down the sides. There's several different ways. I actually went ahead and I made up this ganache earlier this week. So you can go ahead and make it ahead of time, and it can stay in the fridge good for like a week. And then all I did was I just microwaved it for a couple seconds, like for 30 seconds, stirred it 30 seconds again, so you get that nice velvety creamy texture. And at the end of this video, I'll have another video that kind of goes over how I made the ganache. So the three different types that I'm going to go over is the very popular one right now is just to use a spoon. And all you do is you just kind of pour it over the sides and just kind of let it drip by itself. And you can kind of see that it just kind of gently falls down the side. I don't have a lot of good control with the spoon. It's not one of my personal favorites. I personally don't care for it. I like to have a little cup that has like a little spout on it. You can either use like measuring cups. I got this little porcelain cup from from Michael's that's good for like dipping ganache or chocolate or having the drip things. Or you can just use like a measuring cup, as I said, or you can use the plastic cup that you just kind of squeeze to kind of get that little spout edge. And then what you can do is you can just like pour it and just let it drip down the sides by itself. Kind of get a little bit thicker drips that way and a little less control than with the spoon, but it still has that nice dripping effect. My all-time personal favorite though is you just pour a whole bunch of ganache on the top and take your bent edge spatula and kind of scrape that clean so that way you don't make a whole mess. I'll probably use a little bit more ganache in a moment, but all you're going to do is you're going to kind of push the ganache over to the edges. And if you do your other techniques with like the spoon or the pouring technique, this is a good this is how you're going to like cover the top of the cake. And it does look like I need more ganache, so we're just going to continue pouring some of that. And again, we're just going to kind of start pushing that over to the edges. I'm not going to go all the way to the edge quite yet. I'm just going to kind of get it close. Just really, really close. And then I'm going to take my spatula and I'm just going to push it over. And then that's going to kind of start forming its own drips. And again, just kind of pushing and gliding. Get those nice drips going down the side. Ta-da! Nice and pretty drips. Nice and pretty. But I mean, also with that pushing technique, sometimes you get the really big gaps where it didn't quite drip all the way you wanted it to. And again, you just add a little extra ganache and keep on pushing. The only downside to doing that pouring technique versus the spoon technique or the pouring technique is you don't get as much control as to where the ganache drips down. It kind of just does its own thing. And voila, that's how you do that. As you've heard me say several times, a clean board is a happy board. It looks more professional. And I personally don't like all this pooling on the boards. I don't like it. It's not my personal thing. But I know that there are some people out there that do like it. And so if that's how you like it, you do that. I feel like cake decorating is a good sense of self. It's a good form to show who you are as a person, how you are as an artist. And I feel like cake decorating should be very free form and very creative and just a good way to express yourself. Which again, I don't like the jewelry cold or the grays, so I like to do rainbows and bright colors and just get all that brightness in the world. And I'm just going to kind of keep cleaning that edge up a bit. So in a lot of videos, I've kind of watched a couple to kind of figure out what I'm doing for today. They say that you should always have your cake nice and cool before you put the ganache down. That helps a lot. It kind of makes sure that the ganache doesn't melt the frosting as it's dripping down the sides. Or if you just don't have time for it, a good way to get around that is once your ganache is all nice and melted, you just kind of like pick up a little bit on your finger and you dab it on your lips, kind of like as if you're like applying lip balm or lipstick. And if it's nice and cool to your lips, that's a good temperature to put down the top of the cake. It also helps prevent the top from cracking if you have bad humidity or funky weather. It's just a good practice to have, or a cake. But that is that. And I'm going to go ahead and take my white frosting bag that has just a round tip. And this is just how I'm going to do my borders, mainly just because I kind of feel like using a round tip kind of makes it look like clouds and rainbows and all that fun stuff. And it's just squeezing and pulling and going around the sides of the cake. And as you can tell, that I already have, even though I cleaned up a lot of that pooling ganache, I still have some pooling off the sides. And that's okay, because the borders are going to kind of hide some of that, and then some of it's going to drip on top of the borders. And again, this is all free form, and it doesn't really matter that much. And we're just going to kind of keep going around. And I'm going to kind of empty out this bag, and I'm going to switch it out for a star tip bag to do the top. Just didn't quite have enough frosting in there. I'm going to roll that back out. And a lot of times with drip cakes nowadays, a lot of people like having a lot of height on their cake and a lot of fun stuff pushing out all over the place. And I know in my last video I talked how I like to have levels in my cake or my decorations, so that way you don't have just the flat surface. You kind of have the little, ooh. And that's kind of what we're going to do. I'm going to switch this out for our star tip. And put that back on. And then I'm going to burp the bag. As you can kind of see, there's like this section here that has like a big air pocket. And all you do is you just kind of like squeeze that extra frosting out and just let it pop up. You'd rather have that in the bowl than on your cake. That way you don't have like a little all over the cake. It's not as much fun, I can guarantee you. So since the ganache is still a little warm, still a little weepy, instead of putting the decorations right on the side of the cake, I'm going to kind of push them a little bit more towards the middle. And since this is going to be the center of it, I'm going to have a nice big tall dollop, and then I'm just going to kind of build some frosting around that. And what I'm doing here is I'm doing little rosettes to kind of give it some texture. And to do a rosette, what I do is I take my star tip, start in the middle, and work my way around. And usually for my decorations, I like to do kind of like half moons. I like to have like a half moon of frosting on one side and then some sprinkles on the other. So that way if I wanted to have like some writing in the middle, I would have plenty of space and room to do that. We're just going to kind of keep building some of that frosting up. Yeah, I like that. Have some nice texture, nice layers. Alright, so then I got these really pretty sprinkles from Michael's just recently. It's the Wilton like pastel blend. It's super cute. It's got like this little spoon that comes with it, and this is super cute. I'm so excited for this. Ready? Ready? Ta-da! It's like a little cap. I love it. It's so cute. Okay, excuse my geeking out here. But this is said, it's got like nice little like pearls and like little diamonds and jimmies and circles, and we're just gonna kind of like sprinkle this in here just to kind of give a little bit more color and a little bit more fun. And some of them are like sliding off the frosting, and that's okay. My cats will eat them later. No, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna let my cats eat sprinkles. That could probably hurt them. We don't want that. And I'm actually gonna go ahead and make like a little bit of a border circle around this. And just kind of go around the outer edge. And just to kind of like give it a finishing top. I'm choosing not to do top borders with this. Instead, I'm choosing to do sprinkle border, just like that. Ta-da! And we're gonna put this back. Again, little cute top. Ta-da! So cute. And one of my favorite candies in the whole wide world is rock candy. I love rock candy. I mean, it's basically just sugar and flavoring. You can't go wrong with it. And I'm gonna just kind of like pick up some of these bigger pieces, some like purples and pinks and greens and whites and blues. And I'm just gonna kind of like press that into the frosting just to kind of give it some shimmer and shine and all sorts of fun prettiness. I've got some pinks in here. Oops. Don't want that rolling down the side of the cake. I'm just gonna kind of sprinkle that in place. As you can hear, the rock candy's falling all over the floor, and we'll definitely be sweeping after this. And we're just gonna kind of like build that up a little bit, get some bright colors in there. I just think this is really pretty. I think it's fun. I think it's bright. I think it's shimmery and shiny. I'm just gonna kind of sprinkle some of that extra rock candy around the edges. Give it a little extra shimmer and shine. And voila, that is my rainbow drip cake. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's very bright and vibrant. All the colors, all the fun, and I really like it. I'm so happy that you watched my video. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you learned something. And thank you so much. This is Brianna with Whiteoak Goodies. Thank you so much, and subscribe.